Um, Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm sorry for that technical glitch that we had just experienced. It was as a result of what we call blackouts. They are nicely referred to as load shedding. Once again, thank you very much. Umtungo Uyongo Malinge. Undimaka Nkumbuzo welcomes you to this wonderful Sunday and a conversation that we are going to be having this afternoon. So I welcome you. And if you are new into the platform, here is the ties that bind us. Please ensure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and you do the same by following us on Twitter and on Facebook and on all the other platforms that we are engaging on. On Twitter, we are at Ponte Politique currently at this moment. We are live, as I can hear and I can see there are some people who are watching, and on Facebook, we are equally live and available. So please make sure that you follow us. We've been having beautiful conversation over the years. And I think by now we are approaching 2 years, probably we're a few months towards the end of our 2-year anniversary. So welcome and thank you for joining us. Last week we had a one of rare conversations with Brother Greg McKenzie. And we can see that the conversations are still taking place on YouTube. So please go back and be part of that conversation. Today, this afternoon, I am flying solo. It is the month of love. People have gone to dates and they have been moving together and enjoying themselves in one way or the other. But at the same time, the country had been marred with a lot of sadness, especially with the passing of AKA, a popular South African rapper. Keenan Forbes was gunned down in Durban, I think a week or two ago. So there has been a lot of conversations along that particular aspect. And additionally, people have gone through Valentine's Day and they have enjoyed themselves. And we wish them all the best. And because it is this particular month of love, I decided to go today with a solo date. So I'm moving all by myself this afternoon. But the essence of the conversation, whatever that we will be talking about, remains the same. If you are struggling to pick up on what we are, whether it is struggling to find us live, it is either because of the load shedding. So we've used other methods to ensure that we have a live broadcast again this afternoon. The commitment that we have put towards you as our viewers is unprecedented and is unquestionable. The other day I did mention that we do not have a large number of following. It could be one reason or the other, but our commitment as Ponte Politique in ensuring that every Sunday, 6 o'clock, we've got a broadcast is something that we have embraced and taken it with great responsibility. So majority of the team that I work with, they are volunteering. They are not people who are getting paid. We are doing all of this without any income, without any money. We're not benefiting anything financially or monetary. But what we do is that we benefit from your conversations. Our intellectual, psychological, political understanding of issues gets promoted, gets expanded. The questions that are posed against us, the questions that we posed, the research that we do behind all of these things, they expand us. And hopefully that that does the same thing with you as well as as our viewers. So if you're watching, send a comment, anything that you would like to talk about. we would be able to try and respond to it. I would like to say and make this plea to the people who are viewers of Pondopolitik. Please, what we have experienced over the past year and a half is that when we require or when we're in need of female guests, we tend to struggle extensively. And I'm not sure what could be the reason, but the one reason that I could point out is directed at me, could be that because of my experiences as a person gendered as men, probably I don't go beyond my reach to go and find female guests. So it would be nicer to have people who are willing to assist us in this regard, but also at the same time, people who are willing to take part in these conversations who are female gendered. But also at the same time, we would like to have those people who are in the category of LGBTQ+, LGBTQI+ community. We want everybody to be part and parcel of this conversation. So those who are watching with us, please help us. You can send us the information of an individual. You can inbox it. You can send it on our Twitter page. You can send a comment on our YouTube page. We would love to feature a lot of people who are not gendered as men, because politics is not entirely about men, let alone that it has been made to be such. But politics is about everybody. Politics is about everyone, even those people who do not want or who say that I'm not into politics. Politics is into you. That is why we took this position that we are going to be starting this YouTube channel, this platform, Facebook page, this Twitter page, and everything else. It is about the fact that politics is not entirely about specific individuals. Politics affects us. Politics affects the price of bread. Politics affects the price of petrol. Politics affects the price of the school. The politics affects almost everything that we do. South Africa is experiencing blackouts. Politics are involved in that. Everything we live in our society is being influenced one way or the other by politics. Even the law itself. I've made this argument that the law does not precede politics. Politics precede the law. The law does not come out of nowhere. The law is developed as a result of politics. So I'm asking that anybody in any field who would like to be part of this conversation, especially those people who are not gendered as men, we would love to have them being part of the conversation. So please help us so that we can be more inclusive and more broad in our ideas, so that our ideas are not entirely influenced by the majority of our thoughts as patriarchs, and because the society itself lives is set up in a patriarchal way. Now that if that is out of the way, and I'm sure that you will be able to help us. Now that if that is out of the way, let me give a feedback. A few weeks ago, we did a live stream on the protests that were taking place in Okumkijima municipality. So our team and myself has gone back to just go and find out what has been taking place. One thing that I can tell you, firstly, as we were in the conversation, we got the news that there was a government building that was burning, and it was clarified that it was a police building. And this building was burning in Komani. And at the time, it was claimed that there were auditors that were coming from the national office coming to do their auditing in that part of the world. Now, we can put it on record that that was a true story. Also, we can put it on record that there were auditors in Komani at the time. We can also put it on record that we spoke to some people who were part and parcel of the auditing process. They were informed and they were brought into the scene, and they saw that the majority of files administration had been burnt down at the SAPS logistics offices. It is next to Public Works in the town of Komani. Secondly, the majority of people would ask what would be the reason for that. We don't know. The matter is still under investigation, but the area commissioner, I think it's the area commissioner or district commissioner, has been on top of the investigation. So hopefully in the near future, things will be clarified. Then there was an issue of the visit of the Minister of Local Government, Cooperative Government, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. She came, she met the residents, but the unfortunate thing is that the meeting itself did not end well. She ended up being chased away by the residents. And what we picked up and what we were told was that she was a little bit vague, or not a little bit, she was entirely vague in what needs to be done and what is going to be done. And the people or the citizens were unhappy with her responses, with her utterances, because they felt like she is not committing to doing anything. These are some of the things that she said. I might not say them as she had said them, but these are some of the things that she said. I have come for myself to come and see what transpired. I have seen the state of this municipality, and I'm going to go back and present your grievances to the cabinet. The cabinet was supposed to sit on a certain date, and it has been postponed to another date. And therefore, it is only the cabinet that can make a decision in relation to what needs to be done in relation to this particular matter. And I think the citizens were not happy about that. And she ended up being chased away. So that did not bring any, it did not yield any results. Secondly, is that the protest has been taking place. Even yesterday, there has been a protest taking place the day before. So the protest has been ongoing. So there has not been a change. So South Africans tend to have a way of being hot, and all of a sudden they become cold. Something can be topical, and then people end up not following it up anymore. So there is that thing that is still taking place. But one thing that I can say, and I can commend the minister for, is for him going there. Because she had promised to go, and she had promised that she would go with a representative from the National Treasury, speaking specifically with the Minister of Finances. But the Minister of Finance did not go there. But also at the same time, you need to know that there was a person appointed by the Minister of Finance for the past 3 years to oversee the processes of finances in that municipality. That has not taken place. It means that that process and that project had failed. So I think the citizens of Komani have got every right to be angry. But also at the same time, the problem of political governance is that there are processes, red tapes, a lot of red tapes that needs to be done. And if you do not have the power, some things tend to be overstretched unnecessarily. So I think Minister Dlamini-Zuma found herself in that situation where she was powerless in changing whatever the situation might be. Remember also the internal politics in the ANC. Now let us, that is the feedback that I have at this particular moment. If there is something more, please send us your comment and talk to us about that. Now, over the past few weeks and months or so, when the schools opened, I saw on Twitter there was a conversation around the Model C schools, or Churo specifically, Churo Private Academy. Is it private academy? Yeah. And people were complaining about, I think, the standard, excuse me, the standard of Churo, and the fees and the expense and that are involved in that particular academy. But also there was another conversation that was taking place that was saying that why do even people begin to think of going to Churo when there's public schools? Others say, no, but you cannot be speaking to us about that. That is nonsense, because public schools do not provide the best education for the children at this moment. So that also is a way where parents would rather sink deep in debt just so that their children can have a potential future. What the public schools have been criticized for is the fact that they do not provide the best education. That's what they've been criticized for. But the teachers that are in these private schools who do their best, they will tell you that in comparison to schools that are so-called private and Model C or elite schools, they have to deal with about 50 plus school children who come from already poor backgrounds. So you've got this problem of two types of systems that are taking place in South Africa, but also the two societies in South Africa, the haves and the have-nots. So there has been that critique against Churo and its fees. But also at the same time, there are so-called aspiring middle-class people. I'm saying it because of a lack of a better word. Middle-class people, especially the Black population, they seem to have no choice, because they feel like for them to get out of the situation that they find themselves into, engineered by colonialism, apartheid, and post-apartheid society, is that they feel like the best thing to be done is take your child to a best school. They have the potential of being having a better future. So there is that dynamic. Maybe you guys have got something to say in relation to that. But what I can say is that I've had an experience with Churo, and I've noted some glaring problems. As many of you would know, that I'm located under the city of Tshwane, and I've seen two types of Churos in the city of Tshwane. No, not in the city of Tshwane. I've seen three in the city of Tshwane. I think one is in around Centurion, if I'm not mistaken. The other one is around East Lane. Then there's another one that is somewhere in the area. What is this place here? But the place is in between the farms. Now, when I went into that Churo, I saw that over 80% of the students there or scholars are white. I don't remember missing I don't remember missing a black kid. When I went to the one in Eastleigh, over 80%, 90%, let me be precise, they're black. In the one in Centurion, over 80% they are black. So already you can see even the dynamic around the type of students or scholars that are in these Churos is determined from class, race perspectives. And what I saw, even when I looked around in that Churo that is in that, what is this area, man? I forgot that area, but I know it. Myself, is it? No, it's not. It's not that one. I forgot the name, but it's here in Pretoria. It's not the one in East Lane. For people who know Pretoria, It's not the one in East Lane. It's on the other side of Pretoria. The area there has got a lot of farms, plots, big plots, which are mainly occupied by white people. So you see, probably that is another reason why there was this complaint about churros fees. But also at the same time, private education is expensive. So you decide on whether churro is the best thing for yourself and your children or not. But I'm not sure what the essence. But there was a conversation around the churro thing. What is my view on that? I think that churros and churro is a reflection of our society, a society that is bifurcated, a society that is divided into two, a society that is divided in class and race. So there is that dynamic. But also at the same time, I want to advise people who take their kids to school in public schools. As people who are constantly in post-schooling environment, we tend to struggle with your kids that you bring into universities. Because your kids, those that go to public schools, many of them, they don't qualify. Their APS scores are very low, so much that they end up taking any other module, or any other degree or diploma that is available because they don't qualify for the best streams. But these kids have passed according to the requirements of Omalus. Can you please, parents and whomever, ensure that if your kid does 7 subjects for matric, can you please ensure that they pass the 6 well without considering life orientation? Can you please make sure that your children pass their matric well? Because the things that we see in the post-schooling environment at universities, at technical colleges and universities of technology is painful and is sad. So please make sure that your child passes their subjects well, at least with 5s, 4 and 5 around if they are doing 7 subjects. Life orientation is not an important element when it's in relation to the counting of APS scores. But what I've also experienced is that most white children, they do more than 7 subjects, some do 9. And that gives them an advantage. So please just consider that and make sure if your child or if your children have not succeeded in, have not acquired the required APS scores, please take them back to go and repeat the matric so that they can improve, because we're struggling with our kids at the universities. It becomes painful. Now that is out of the way, you will also, I'm talking about different things today. The other day there was an issue that was making the rounds on social media about Rutendo. Rutendo is a Zimbabwean-born African. He is leading a charge against sanctions in Zimbabwe. And he is a very knowledgeable guy and very, 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 very forthright. Great following on Twitter, and he knows his story. There was an issue that was taking place where he had an interview with Newsroom Africa, but then it seemed as if the interview that he did was taken down on YouTube. Now, for me, these are problems of mass media, especially in South Africa. The problem of mass media is that they do not want a counter view. That is why majority of people are being influenced to a nonsensical analysis of politics in the day. Even if you have, at some point we used to have Ugogo Obrumachek. he was the darling of the media, but then at some point he became put to the side for one reason or the other because he was making a counter view of the popular discourse. So Rutendo suffers from the same thing, and this is the problem of mass media, especially in relation to the analysis of political matters. So what you saw there in Rutendo and Newsroom Africa, it's not something peculiar. It has happened to a lot of people. It has happened to me, not that I'm an important person, not that I have so much that is counter or is against, but I've done and I've written opinion pieces, sent them to mass media. I've been invited to interviews that end up being cancelled for one reason or the other. There are other people as well. So what happened to Rutendo is not new. It is something that is true that happens into the mass media. And it is up to us as a people to stand against this nonsense, because there should always be a counter view. We can't have one view of issues. Even here in this platform of Pond the Politic, it can't be only one view. There must be other views. So you can check it out. You can look at Rutendo's work. He does a great deal of analysis. He gives a good political history about the Southern Africa. I do have my issues with him and some of the things that he puts across, but nonetheless, I still love him. I love his work. And another thing, if you feel like I am being unfair to mass media, you can point it out. But mass media has been nonsensical over the years, and it has fed a certain type of perspective and narrative about the politics of our country, the politics of Africa, and the politics of the world. To a point that I don't think South Africa has got a counter-narrative news channel. Yes, I don't think so. Even if they do bring certain people, it's difficult that some of those people, they tend to be suppressed in their ideas. That's why you've got a large number of podcasting platforms like this, podcasting as well, radio podcasting and so on, because people have gotten exhausted and tired of the nonsense of mass media, because it wants to give only one dimension of analysis. As I started this conversation today, I also mentioned that there was a sadness in our society of the killing of Keenan Forbes, known as AKA, and a request for an official funeral from the Premier of Gauteng. And it was denied. It was reported that it was denied by the President of South Africa, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa. I don't know what could have been the reason for the request, but also at the same time, I don't know what could have been the reason for the denial. One of the things that people then began to put across was their comparison between the Mampintsha funeral and the AKA funeral. And people then said, but why the president did not approve this particular one? I don't know what were the reasons, but also I don't know what were the reasons furnished by Panyaza, the Sufi, for that special provincial funeral. But irrespective of what could be the reason, I think the problem with the presidency is that they have become inconsistent, or they are inconsistent. They have not become. They are inconsistent in how they are applying their rules or whatever their discretion. It is still the discretion of the president to decide, but I think there has been this problematic nature of inconsistencies, and then they lead to double standards. Sometimes the mood of the society must be understood in that perspective. And unfortunately, Mampintsha died in December, or just in December, and was buried in January. It's hardly a month later, another artist is also gunned down, dead, whatever the reasons might be. But then, if you are going to want to respect artists that are promoting the artistry of South Africa, whether you believe in it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you agree with the person who is making a request or not, I think we should rather have a decision that says we are going to respect our artists on the basis of the fact that they are contributing to the promotion of the society. Whether we like it or not, I don't know AKA that much, but I'm talking about now artists in general. Artists have got a way of ensuring that the society is united in music. Whatever the reasons that Panyaza might have given to the president, maybe they were not strong enough. I think going forward, in the case of another artist, if there is a need for a state funeral, the reasons must be up to par. If the presidency feel like the artists must not be given state funeral, they must just make that and put that moratorium and stop applying double standards. These things don't work, because the more you apply double standards, the more people begin to understand that actually so we need to find a balance on all of these things. So condolences to the family of family and fans as well of Keenan Forbes, aka, and also it's Hardy, Brother Lesufi, for not getting your way. It is unfortunate, but I think we need to begin to find a way of not being inconsistent as a people, especially in the presidency, because there are a lot of official funerals that have been granted by the presidency that are very, very much questionable. I've written I just submitted a paper around the issue of state funeral, and also in my work, my research work, I did clarify some issues regarding these so-called special funerals. So we need to go back and try and find a balance into that. Hadi Panyaza, but I think you would understand better that the politics were at play in that decision. Last week also, in the course of this, because AKA was gunned down, and also last week now there was what you call this, a release of crime statistics of a specific quarter by the minister and the National Commissioner of Police. And one of the things that were put across was that there's a problem in South Africa. There's a problem with guns, crime in general. But also there was an issue of which I tend to find nonsensical, the excuses that are put across as the reason for crime in our country. I think one of the problems of policing in South Africa is the fact that policing in South Africa has not changed, and policing in South Africa has not linked up with other social relations. It is being isolated from the relations of the society, to a point that now when there is an analysis of statistics, the analysis of statistics and the development of these patterns of crimes, it is like they are just coming out of nowhere. I always argue that crime does not emanate out of nowhere. There are elements that influence influence crime. One of those elements, again, I've written a paper on the TRC and how the military veterans were treated and so on and so forth. And I've made a link trying to show how does the disregard of military veterans, the failure of integration, the failure of demobilization, the failure of bringing up the people who were MK Abla Azanla trained, bringing them back into a better positionality economically, has had an impact of the cash in transit. Some of them have become part and parcel of those crimes. Some of them have become part and parcel of the so-called Inkabi. Some of them have also become part and parcel of training the other cash in transit operatives. This is one example. I'm not saying it is the entirety of it, but this is one example. And the problem of the policing environment is that I have said it many a times that policing in South Africa fails because it lacks, one, doesn't have social scientists, two, it doesn't have criminologists, three, it does not have people who are trained extensively in humanities. And for me, that is also one aspect. People will say to me, no, but the policing is not, we must curb crime and all of that. I'm saying, yes, that's true. But when you are fighting crime and you've used the same model over and over again, and it has proven that it is not succeeding, why don't you change? Why don't you find other models? Why don't you try finding something different? You see? So I think there's a problem with our society, and also there's a problem with how crime is being fought in this country. So much that now people are saying that now we need the National Commission or a minister of the caliber of Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. You think that you are going to be a cowboy to stop crime? Cele was a cowboy when he was a National Commission. He was a cowboy, he was all over the show, but crime did not go down. You understand? So we need to find ways that are more responsive to people. I was listening to an interview that was done, and this other guy says, you know, he's a military veteran. He says, you know, sometimes we don't need the government to look after us. We need the government to make space for us to be able to operate on our own. We're tired of these handouts. We're tired of this being given. So I'm trying to make an example of how crime also needs to be considered. Now, the statistics are too high. Gender-based violence, rape, conduct crimes, trio crimes, house robberies, especially car hijackings and robberies. Now that there's load shedding, there's a lot of criminality that is taking place as well. So you need to understand that the things that are happening in the society influence how crime takes place. And therefore, if you want to respond to crime, you can't only respond by using force. You are constantly going to have the same problem. So the Minister of Police, the police management, and any other person who is interested in curbing crime, including the political elites of South Africa, they need to think beyond the force. They need to think beyond the busting. They need to think beyond this one-dimensional approach of how to fight crime. Last week, I was at a funeral at my my church funeral, and I was so disturbed about a few things. There's this problem that I've experienced in churches where majority of people think that politics and the church cannot mix, or people who are at the church must either be in the church and not in politics, or you must either be in politics, not in the church. For me, that was very problematic, and I was very much disturbed. There was an underlying message that was being communicated that says, you do not have grace when you are outside the church. You only receive, or you are under grace and protection when you are in the church. And this was being spoken of in a very way that I felt it was problematic. And so much that this was influenced my way of opening this program when I said that politics affect everything. Politics affect even the church. Even the church itself, even how it is done, how it was constituted. It was political. It's a political organization of some sort. Politics require constituency and power. The church uses the same model, constituency and power. If you do not have constituents, you can't have a church. If you don't have a power, you can't be a leader of the church. You can't be a bishop of the church. They have to bestow on you the bishopship, the mfundisiship, the mvangeliship, and whatever, the mama mvangeliship, the mama mfundisiship, and all the mama bishopship. All of those elements, they have to be bestowed on you by the institution of the church that has got the constituents, which is the people. So there is that dimension where you can, when you look at the church and when you understand it properly, you can see that basically there is a replication of political institutionalization in the church, but it's just that it is called the church. So I felt there was a problem. But secondly, the other problem was the fact that we were talking about a person who was an MK. And this person decided to take arms to fight against a system that was declared a crime against humanity. And now the people who bury him in the church, they are then saying and claiming that he left his old ways that were wayward to come and join the church. What nonsense is that? Can you say a person who has decided to fight a humanistic cause, fighting a system that was declared a crime against humanity, and you say that that person had a wayward ways by being in the liberation struggle? That is nonsense. That's a lack of even understanding what politics is about. But not only politics, the lack of politics, but also the lack of understanding what is the purpose of the church. In my church, there is a line that we use every day, and it says, "True human betterment and deeds of kindness can we feel thy presence." And when they say thy presence, they talk about Umvelingangi's presence, the Allah's presence, the Jehovah presence, the Yahweh presence, the God's presence, and all of that. And that line speaks to the fact that as a people, the best way to feel the presence of the Almighty, the supernatural being, whether that supernatural being, the deity is a man, female, or non-gendered, it is through deeds of kindness to our brothers and sisters, to our fellow human beings. So I think we need to, and I loved when we once had a conversation with Mr. Vuyo Zungula of African Transformation Movement, a member of parliament of ATM. He clarified this issue and he said that you cannot separate the church from politics. And also he made an example of the people who are affected by load shedding are also there in the church. The people who are affected by the taxation are in the church. The people who are affected by the high increments of repo rate are in the church. The people who are affected by lack of service delivery are also in the church. Now, even therefore, the people who had to fight against a system that is problematic, apartheid, including the neo-apartheid of post-1994, they are also there in the church. And it doesn't make sense that the church tends to want to isolate itself away from the struggles of politics and people, because it cannot survive without the people in the first place. And it requires the monies from the people who are failing to get what is due to them from the government, which the government has been developed and constructed by politics. And that's why I made a great critical engagement against the Inkonzo Yama-Israeli in the Eastern Cape and the issues at Enoch Mgijima municipality. That church has been so quiet, so quiet, and it's embarrassing. Their quietness. And I think that is the problem of churches in general, that they tend to want to shy away from issues of politics as if they are going to be they are being spared from the nonsenses of politics. But I mean the nonsense of political governance. So I was concerned about that, and I thought I should put it here with you guys. Maybe you would have a different view about the involvement of the church in politics. But this is my view in relation to how. Maybe the how part becomes an important. But for me, the church and politics, they cannot be isolated. I'm not saying the church must be politics or politics must be church, but I'm saying you can't run away from that, because those issues, they tend to overlap, and they tend to be interrelated in one way or the other. Now, maybe I should move to more of a international relations platform, or international relations conversation. I've got two issues that I want to talk about before we can close off this afternoon. Firstly, yesterday there was reports that in Ethiopia, the African Union had expelled. I don't know the meaning of the expulsion, but they had expelled the Israel Zionist delegates into the African Union. And it was reported that South African government, Algeria, were the ones who, that is South Africa and Algeria were the ones who pushed for that motion. I'm saying that is good. But my point starts from, why did you allow the Israeli Zionist government in the first place to be part of the African Union? For you to even come back now and want to expel them, why was it allowed in the first place? And I think the expulsion emanates from the fact that the Israeli Zionist government has continued apartheid in Palestine, has continued to suffer, to destroy the society, the social fabric of the Palestinian people. And also they have continued to steal and to occupy the land of the Palestinians, like what the European settlers have done in South Africa currently. And and I think that was a good move to expel them. When, for me, expulsion must be permanent. And I think it is wise that we should put and ask this question: why in the first place was the Israeli Zionist government part of the African Union? I'm not going to answer that question. You can answer it yourself. But I'm glad that that has taken place. And another point that I want to raise, and this is going to be my last discussion point for the day, and it's also relating to global politics, that is geopolitics, international relations. You see, since the beginning of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, which by extension is a conflict between NATO and Russia, which by extension is a conflict between America and Russia and China, which by extension is the conflict between the superpowers of this world. Since then, the South African government, led by the ANC, has pushed for what one would call, they call it positive neutrality, that things must be discussed, things must be communicated in a negotiated, spoken of, and. I find that very problematic from the ANC government, because the ANC is very tricky. The decisions that they make, the type of positions that they take, it's like they never sit down and look, what decision did we take yesterday, and then how is it impacting us today, so that it can influence the decision of today. They are very tricky. They are just a group of people that are just problematic in how they make decisions. I think also you would see what I'm saying with what I said about AKA and Panyaza Lesofie and the official funeral and other official funerals. So I mean, like, they make some funny decisions, some very, 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 very funny decisions. Look, they had said that with that conflict in Ukraine, they're taking positive neutrality. I'm like, why would you take positive neutrality when the Soviet Russia, my man, has taken care of the ANC since the 1950s. From 1950s onwards, Soviet Russia has been, through its Comintern, taken care of the ANC up until. Why would you want to take positive neutrality when these people have fed you? They have gave you military arms. They have protected you. They have given you propaganda machine. They have been part of propagating that you disregard the other liberation movements in South Africa. But when now you have to stand with them, you want to take a positive neutrality. I want to end the conversation there at that moment. And I want to say to you guys, Uyongwa Kamalinge, uyanibulela kakhulu for taking the time to be part of this conversation. All I wanted to bring about, I'm not engaging on this last point. I want you to think about it, and I want us to have a conversation with it in the near future. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure that you follow us and you subscribe in all the platforms that we are on. And all the best. Bye-bye.